From the ashes of a war-ravaged nation emerged an economic phoenix, defying all odds and soaring to new heights. Join us on a journey through time as we explore the dramatic transformation of Vietnam, from the depths of despair during the Vietnam War to the thriving market it is today. Imagine a land torn apart by conflict, its economy in ruins, and its people struggling to survive. Fast forward to the present, and witness the astonishing tale of resilience, innovation, and growth that has propelled Vietnam to become one of Southeast Asia's most dynamic economies. This is the story of Vietnam's remarkable ascent from war-torn chaos to an economic powerhouse, a testament to the adamant spirit of a nation. During the 60s and 70s, Vietnam was embroiled in one of the most tragic and devastating conflicts of the 20th century, the Vietnam War. It was a conflict that tore the nation apart, leaving deep scars on its land, people, and economy. What started as a struggle for independence and reunification escalated into a full-scale war between the communist forces of North Vietnam and the anti-communist forces supported by the United States and its allies. The Vietnam War ravaged the country on multiple fronts, inflicting immense suffering and destruction. The landscape of Vietnam became a battleground as relentless bombings, artillery fire, and guerrilla warfare wreaked havoc across the nation. Villages were decimated, forests were scorched, and the countryside bore the scars of chemical warfare, particularly the extensive use of Agent Orange. While the human cost of the war too was staggering, Vietnamese citizens endured unimaginable hardships caught in the crossfire of a conflict they had no control over. Families were torn apart, lives were lost, and an entire generation was scarred by the trauma of the war. The casualties, both military and civilian, numbered in the millions, and the physical and emotional wounds inflicted during this dark period will linger for decades. The physical destruction and massacre of over 13% of the Vietnamese population created economic issues that plagued Vietnam in the aftermath of the war, which were both multifaceted and deeply rooted. The protracted conflict had taken a severe toll on the country's economy, exacerbating pre-existing challenges and creating new ones. These challenges arose in a plethora of forms. First and foremost, inflation engulfed the economy, incinerating the value of the Vietnamese dong. The relentless printing of money to fund the war effort fueled hyperinflation, transforming the currency into little more than worthless paper. Prices skyrocketed with dizzying speed, as if caught in a whirlwind of uncertainty and instability, as the cost of basic necessities became exorbitant, leaving the average Vietnamese citizen grappling with the cruel reality of unaffordable food, shelter, and healthcare. The war's destructive embrace also smothered Vietnam's industrial and agricultural sectors, throttling their productive capacity. The relentless bombings and relentless warfare transformed factories and farmlands into ghostly remnants of their former selves. Manufacturing plants lay in ruins, their machinery twisted and broken, while once fertile fields were reduced to barren wastelands. The war had mercilessly strangled the lifeline of the economy, leaving it gasping for breath amidst the chaos. The agricultural sector, once the backbone of Vietnam's economy, was particularly ravaged. The fields that once yielded bountiful harvests were now littered with craters and ravaged by chemical agents. Pesticides and herbicides unleashed with reckless abandon contaminated the soil, poisoning both crops and the dreams of farmers. The scarcity of arable land and the destruction of irrigation systems further compounded the crisis, triggering a catastrophic decline in agricultural output. The war's toll on infrastructure was equally devastating. Bridges, roads, and power plants stood as haunting reminders of the widespread devastation. The once bustling arteries of trade and transportation were reduced to rubble, rendering economic connectivity and mobility nearly impossible. Isolated communities weakened in a state of disconnect, severed from the lifeblood of commerce and development. The shattered infrastructure acted as to smother any hopes of economic recovery. Furthermore, the war's displacement of millions of people unleashed a tidal wave of social dislocation and disrupted labour markets. Families torn apart, homes reduced to ashes, and livelihoods shattered. The human cost of the war manifested itself in the economic fabric of the nation. The sudden influx of refugees overwhelmed limited resources and strained already fragile social services. The loss of skilled workers and the disruption of labour markets further aggravated the economic turmoil, making the path to recovery even more treacherous. The Vietnam War cast a long shadow over the economic landscape of Vietnam. leaving behind a trail of devastation that took a toll on the nation's real GDP and international trade. So, how did Vietnam manage to defy the odds and escape the clutches of dire economic devastation, rising to become a thriving market in the modern world? In the depths of the Vietnam post-war turmoil, a ray of hope emerged. A bold vision to shatter the chains of stagnation and ignite a flame of economic revival was set in motion. This is the story of the Đổi Mới policy, a beacon of transformation that would propel Vietnam towards unprecedented growth and development. The Đổi Mới policy, meaning renovation in Vietnamese, was policymakers' audacious answer to the nation's economic woes. It was a call to dismantle the old structures and embrace a new dawn of prosperity. Vietnam would never be the same again. The Đổi Mới policy has 6 central concepts to transform the Vietnamese economy, each in their own unique way. 1. Transition to a market-orientated economy. One of the primary objectives of the Đổi Mới was to shift Vietnam from a centrally planned economy to a more market-orientated system. The policy aimed to introduce elements of supply and demand, competition, and private ownership, allowing market forces to play a greater role in shaping the economy and striving for greater efficiency. 2. Opening up to foreign investment. Đổi Mới emphasized the importance of attracting foreign direct investment (FDI) to fuel economic growth. It involved the creation of economic zones and liberalization of investment regulations to encourage foreign businesses to establish operations in Vietnam. This move helped bring in capital, technology, and expertise from abroad. 3. Decentralization and autonomy for state-owned enterprises. The policy granted greater autonomy to state-owned enterprises, allowing them to operate with more flexibility and respond to market demand. SEOs were given the freedom to make business decisions, form partnerships, and seek profitability, moving away from the rigid constraints of central planning. 4. Agricultural reforms. Recognizing the importance of agriculture as a key sector, Đổi Mới aimed to transform Vietnam's agricultural practices. It introduced the concept of household responsibility in farming, which allowed individual farmers to have control over their production decisions and output. This shift towards individual farming, coupled with the incentives and market-oriented policies, led to an increase in agricultural productivity. 5. Trade liberalization. Đổi Mới emphasized the need to integrate Vietnam into the global economy. The policy focused on reducing trade barriers, promoting exports, and expanding international trade relations. Vietnam pursued membership in international trade organizations and signed various bilateral and multilateral trade agreements, opening doors for increased trade and access to global markets. 6. Economic diversification. Đổi Mới recognized the importance of diversifying Vietnam's economy beyond agriculture. It encouraged the development of industries such as manufacturing, services, and technology. The policy aimed to foster a more diverse and robust economic landscape, reducing reliance on any single sector. The Đổi Mới policy was a seismic shift, shaking the very foundations of Vietnam's economy. With the bold vision, the policy dismantled the chains of central planning and set in motion a series of transformative changes. But what were the consequences of this courageous leap into the realm of free markets and entrepreneurship? The first consequence was the unleashing of an entrepreneurial spirit, which had been previously suppressed. Vietnamese individuals, once confined by the rigid grip of state control, seized the opportunity to create and innovate. From street vendors to tech startups, a new wave of businesses emerged, breathing life into the nation's economy. The consequences were staggering. Vietnam's economic growth soared to new heights, defying expectations and capturing the world's attention. GDP skyrocketed, foreign direct investment poured in, and poverty rates plummeted. The nation was on a trajectory of progress, fueled by the winds of change. But the consequences extended far beyond statistics. The Đổi Mới policy breathed life into the nation's infrastructure. Roads were paved, bridges were built, and once sleepy towns transformed into bustling cities. The physical landscape of Vietnam underwent a remarkable metamorphosis, connecting communities and fostering development. Education and healthcare reaped the benefits of Đổi Mới as well. Access to quality education and healthcare services expanded, empowering individuals to dream bigger and reach higher. The consequences of Đổi Mới were felt in the lives of Vietnamese people, as newfound opportunities lifted them from the shadows of the past. Today, as we witness the consequences of Đổi Mới, it is clear that the audacious decision to embark on economic reforms has forever altered the course of Vietnam's history. The nation has risen from the ashes, transformed it into an economic powerhouse, and etched its name onto the global stage. Over the past decade, Vietnam has maintained an average annual GDP growth rate of around 6.5 to 7%. This sustained growth has positioned Vietnam as one of the fastest growing economies in Southeast Asia and among the top performers globally. That is the story of the economic transformation of Vietnam. If you want to see more content surrounding economics, geopolitics, and history, make sure to like and subscribe.